Sorry, everybody. Just learning as we go. Um, so let's see. Our final day, our final morning. I said it would be a flash, and certainly has been for me. Here we are. Always the same now, the same here, 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 here. Everything is just a flicker of summer lightning, according to the Diamond Sutra. All everything that's arising, we get so sort of locked into it and take it so sort of solidly, get so attached and in different ways. And what if it's just a play of lightning, play of light, in a vastness that, we're in a we don't know what, some kind of context that isn't even a context, but sort of is, sort of isn't, and um, and that doesn't change, that. But then again, it isn't really a thing, so you can't say there's something that doesn't change because it isn't a thing. But there sort of is something that doesn't change, but it's not a thing. But it's not nothing. It is nothing, but it's not nothing. It's no thing, and it's everything, each thing. Um, let me just let me just kind of gather a little bit because it somehow it feels like a like a kind of I don't know, like some sort of responsibility to make sure that I sort of give a good final sort of gathering together kind of a talk, you know. And of course, uh, who knows if that's going to arise? Who knows? Because I don't. Of course, I have some thoughts always. So I try to hit these points when I give a talk, but I don't like really minutely planning them. I don't like writing them because I believe. I mean, this is one way of doing it. There's a lot of ways of doing a talk, but my way, well, it's not my way. The way many do it this way is to trust the gathering now and let the talk somehow be, not wholly created by one mind, but sort of, somehow more of a collective arising or somehow. But I mean, I don't know if that really works, but that's sort of the theory I go by. And also there's more fun if I might just fall on my face at any moment, because you've no idea. I've no idea what's going to come out of my mouth next. Okay, here's the thing I want to say. I am going to talk about three things. First is like just a little note again on what we've been doing and are doing in this kind of gathering. Secondly, a couple more points on this business of what on earth the hell is awakening. Just a little touching on that again. And then the question of sort of what then kind of thing, and which applies all the way. It's not like it applies only after somebody's had some cataclysmic awakening experience. No, it applies every time you've had a sit, however foggy and murky and troubled. What then? You come and do a week's retreat like this. It's been a mixture of stuff. It's been some nice, calm, clear stuff, a lot of inner torment, and it's been a mess. Whatever it's been for you. Now it's coming to a close. What then? So all along the way, what then? Is an important question. I get up off the seat. Now what? Okay, so I want to address that. The third point. First point, the way is about what we're doing. One way, a zillion ways to think of it, but one way is kind of like I want to say sort of a tuning a guitar. But instead of 6 strings or 12 strings, it's 90 strings. Each of us. Each of us, we come into a retreat, with a certain sort of vibe going on. We're not terribly aware of it because we're used to living with it. But we do have some sort of vibe, Obviously, it changes a lot, but we come in with a certain vibe, each of us, our own vibe. And gradually, through the course of the sitting, our own vibe sort of will generally be quietening down. Now, oddly, we won't always be aware of that. Our minds may be trundling along, swinging around on their merry-go-rounds of torment and elation or whatever it is. They'll do all that stuff. But actually, meanwhile, our own vibe is kind of settling, each of us. And that's helpful because the more we each quieten a bit, vibe wise, the more there actually is a kind of collective vibe, I suppose, that starts to develop. And it can be very subtle, but it does simply happen, and we kind of tuning in somehow gently to some maybe subterranean sense of a gathering, like the root system in a forest or something, little mycelial networks forming amongst us, something like that. We just get more in tune collectively. And of course, as we're doing that, we are, in a sense, we're getting more in tune with the practice that's come down. The practice, and then as we get more in tune with the particular stream of practice that's come down in this lineage and others and various streams of lineage gathering in this one and all of that, actually what all that practice is about, coming down to us, manifested now by us, is actually humans getting in tune with the wider reality around them. And that means things, mountains, rivers, houses, cars, aeroplanes, rivers, trees, flowers, birds, lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of creatures. So just getting a bit more in tune with them. But it also means getting more in tune with the unnameable, which all those things are, so to speak, arising from right now. All those things are expressions of. And in the old language, that's called the way, or it's called the Tao, or it's called primordial absence, or it's called source. Not Nick's delicious sauce, but Source, source, source of all. Or it is called the I, EYE, of the Buddha. Sometimes then calls it the true, the treasure eye of true Dharma, or the eye of the treasury of true Dharma. Dharma in this case, not meaning teachings as words, but teachings more in the sense of law, the natural law of causation. The law of things arise the way they do, the way somehow causes and conditions sort of incontrovertibly require them to. Causation. Cause and effect, cause and effect, cause and effect. And that's the Dharma as well. So here it says, we heard this morning, however immensely diverse the mountains, rivers, land, and all forms and appearances may be, all of them are in the eye of the Buddha. So it's a beautiful expression, the eye of the Buddha. But don't get too caught up in some notion of it. Always these teachings actually are trying to help us find here and now something, you know, something that maybe would correspond to that eye of the Buddha. That there's an awareness, let's say, here now, that is what we've been really kind of talking about quite a bit. Is like um, the the contracted attention that goes with the contracted sense of self, and what happens when somehow that's loosened, softened. We start to sense something wider, so wider kind of awareness. And then if that's just gone, then awareness, clear, boundless awareness. It just appears. Like somebody was saying yesterday, if you're saying like, I get it. I'm either I'm here and it's not apparent, or I'm gone and it is apparent. Exactly, exactly. So this is the eye of the Buddha. But the beautiful thing is that that eye of the Buddha is actually all things as well. It's not separate from all things that appear in it. Okay, is this making some kind of sense, or is it just yikes? I hope so. Um, um, so let's just that was just a little touch in on what happened to Shakyamuni Buddha according to this 13th century Japanese master Keizan trying to describe Shakyamuni Buddha's awakening. He found that he was simply, you know, one emergence from a greater reality that all things were also emergences from, and that greater reality was sort of what he really was. It was being him, and that's what we all can discover, and then we get to Avalokiteshvara. The scenario there is that we got an assembly of noble disciples of the Buddha sitting around. Subhuti is there, Shariputra is there, Avalokiteshvara is there, Shakyamuni is there. And it so happens this time it's Avalokiteshvara's turn. He has the great awakening. He's sitting doing Prajnaparamita, doing his practice of perfect wisdom, and boom, suddenly it's clear. Everything, all experience, all manner of experience, the entirety, empty, empty. And so there isn't the little knot left that does suffering. In fact, it was never there. That too was empty. Has always been empty, and so no opportunity, almost you could say, for suffering. Now, and that's his awakening. And Avalokiteshvara, as Vara is saying beautifully, he sort of morphs into this figure of universal compassion. That becomes a kind of it sort of works on different levels in a sense. In some ways, it's like a sort of religious figure almost that you can, or I would say, archetypal figure. Kanzeon, Kuan Yin, Avalokiteshvara, Kannon. People will supplicate this figure like they might, a saint or something, or a deity. But they so it operates in that level for especially in East Asian Buddhism, but it's also also something that I think Valerie was pointing to beautifully, that you can sort of experience in some ways as a kind of as a sort of primordial mercy or primordial generosity or something, which is something I talk about a bit in the program Original Love. Is the idea is that right at the bottom, the source itself is profoundly generous. It's infinitely generous because all this is appearing, and so it's not really in that level such a religious thing. It's more of an experiential thing, and it's I think probably eventually there'll be the science, and maybe there's already inklings of it that can actually get this, how nothing turns into energy, turns into the appearance of matter, and has all consciousness, or maybe consciousness itself actually is part of the creation. That's a interesting point between different traditions. Is consciousness the final substrate kind of thing? Is this interesting, or am I getting too technical? Yeah, yeah. I don't know. Maybe for some of you. So I mean, because how awakening is understood is it's different slightly in different traditions. I mean, probably all would have some concurrence on, like, it's somehow no longer being so convinced by the ordinary sense of self as a separate entity. That would probably be pretty much across the board in those, especially in these East Asian, no, Asian traditions, which have really worked hard on this stuff for a long time. It's been an important thing for them. So in Theravada, early Buddhism, actually Buddha's awakening is not described by just looking at the star and awakening. It's a whole long thing. He sees through thousands of past lives. He sees through the 12 links of causation. Haven't got time to go into that now. He sees through the suffering, the cause of suffering, the end of suffering, and the path to the end of suffering. He has a magnificently comprehensive seeing clearly of all these teachings that would come forth later, and the whole process of having been a endlessly reincarnated person, soul, thing, whatever, there's now Buddha, and that's and then also in Theravada Buddhism, it's not just awakening. There's 4 levels of awakening. There's I don't know if I can get them all, but basically, there's a stream enterer, there's the once returner, there's the non-returner, and there's the arhat. They're all a bit different, and they're all defined rather precisely by which defilements have now permanently vanished. And if one of them comes back, back to square one. You know, this is supposed to be like non-repeatable. You're over desire, aversion, and illusion or something. And those 3, if you're on level 1, if one of them comes back even a little bit, boom, you're off. You're not on the rung you thought you were on. You're down. So, but I mean, it's a very thorough, beautiful, amazing system, and you can see we've had some beautiful Theravada practitioners come here. Actually, very deep, sincere, serious. Even monastics have come and done sessions here at times, and yeah, man, wow, you feel it. Yeah, the sincere, really conscientious, deep practice is beautiful. We're a bit sloppy. Well, I am. I mean, in a certain way, Zen isn't so precise about this stuff. Is it right? Is it wrong? It's just different. Then you go to Vedanta, Neo-Vedanta, Advaita Vedanta, they're big on awakening too. For them, I mean, this is really crass simplifying probably, and forgive me if I'm getting it all wrong, but I've read a fantastic commentary on the Mandukya Upanishad. A lot of their teachings based on the Upanishads. There's 4 consciousnesses: waking, dreaming, sleeping consciousness. 3 kinds of consciousness that we are, because when we're awake, well, we're awake, and consciousness is actively experiencing, and then when we're dreaming, kind of sort of, I suppose, body's asleep, but consciousness is kind of on. It's experiencing stuff and knows it. And then in deep sleep, they believe that we can actually be conscious in deep sleep. And I've known practitioners who apparently can do that. I wonder, maybe I've had little glimpses of it now and then, but not very well. But it apparently can happen. The consciousness is very much at rest, of course, but it can be cognized in some way. But the important thing for us is that all those 3 kinds of consciousness, they're actually all just playing. They're the 4th kind, playing. The 4th kind, just pretending to be those. And the 4th kind, which is simply known as the 4th, Turiya, the Turiya means 4th. And the 4th is without characteristics. It has no characteristics. And and to awaken is to, see through any or all of the three apparent to what they really are, to the characteristic less awareness that they're all actually made of, and which enjoys pretending to be those three kind of thing. So, it's a little bit like Buddha Shakyamuni finding he is actually the I of the Buddha, the awareness of the Buddha, sort of playing at being Shakyamuni. He's found that, and so you can see, is it the same language? Well, it's sort of close, but no, it's not exactly the same language, because actually the Heart Sutra is this wild thing. It says the five skandhas are empty, as I just said. He sees through. I said it the other day. Avalokiteshvara sees in his awakening that the five skandhas are empty. Again, not going into them in detail, but the fifth skandha is actually consciousness. Sees that consciousness itself is empty. Now we could debate, does that mean there is consciousness fundamentally? Does that mean actually there isn't even consciousness fundamentally? That's the debate. I don't know if anybody knows the answer, but you can certainly, I think you can have experience that makes it plausible to say that finally, even consciousness is somehow a kind of construction. I think you can, but how the hell are you going to marshal your evidence? you know. But it seems to be part of the Zen tradition, actually, although it's not, maybe not quite clearly stated. But because for example, there's a famous koan that, what's Buddha? What's awakening? Your own mind, your very own mind is Buddha. That's one famous teaching of Mazu or Baso. He taught that a long time. But then he started noticing that lots of the students were saying, Buddha is your own mind. Easy. Buddha is your own mind. So he said, then he came back with another teaching. No mind, no Buddha. No mind, no Buddha. Maybe he got deeper. Who knows? But anyway, no mind, no Buddha. And you can see this in the Heart Sutra says very clearly, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body. There's the five senses. No eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, and no mind. It says it as emphatically as that. So then it goes through again the same six, but like no seeing, no hearing, no smelling, no tasting, no touching, no knowing, or no thinking. It's clearly seeing through. Then you got Zen has got all that Buddhist influence, of course, and it's also got a bit of Taoism. It's got quite a lot of Taoism in Zen, and there's this deep Taoist idea in Zen. Similar point. What is the awakened nature of a dog? Moo. Absent. That's what it means. Non, not, gone. No nature. Gone. So absence. But that's not the end of the story, because that Tao, understood as absence, is doing this. It's doing this. This. I mean, us here now is doing it. So is the way the floor and all of us camera and zoom and world, is that the way, or is the way actually the absence of which it's all emerging or being expressed by? it refuses to make that distinction. No distinction can be made. You know. Okay, so all of that, we may awaken to, and any of that, any of those angles on it, are all available. And, and they all bring a similar kind of relief really, because then we're part of everything. So there's no there's no pain of the solitariness, and and we're not the isolated nugget we thought we were, that's desperately trying to find its way to be okay in the world. Maybe not so desperately, but at times desperately. We're not that either. And so there's, as the Heart Sutra says, suffering relieved. You know, and then we see things differently. So okay, what then? What then? Why is this? Is this of any use, any importance in the world? Um, I want to just give some kind of random anecdotal kind of perspectives on that. I heard about um, there's a friend of mine, is a writer actually called Andrew Mitchell. He told me the story about um, a guy he met in, I think, Blackburn in the north of England. He was working. He was serving on a basically a soup kitchen, to homeless people. And every time he'd go, a guy would show up who had, like, I don't know, lost two, even maybe three fingers off one hand. But he'd be there rolling cigarettes and giving them to all the homeless people who came, who wanted one. And he got to know him, and he was French, and it turned out he had been, this is a random example, okay, but he had been whatever his previous life had been, he'd had a kind of calling, vocation, to go down into the Sahara Desert and join a monastic order there called the Little Brothers and Sisters, that was founded by a Frenchman in the late 19th century called Father Foucault. He's kind of somewhat famous, has become more renowned, I think, these days. And Father Foucault was himself had been a kind of dashing man about town in Paris, living it up, and he'd actually been a cavalry officer, probably slaughtering people and then coming and having fine old times in Parisian salons and stuff. The dashing life of a cavalry officer. And then suddenly this is Father Foucault, he'd suddenly had a kind of total change of heart. He felt that his life was profoundly painful to him, really. If he really looked into it, it wasn't a life of joy at all. It was really a life of pain. And he didn't want it anymore. And he'd gone down to the desert, and somehow there he'd met God in the desert, presumably had some kind of awakening. Found he wasn't the person he thought he was, and that actually there was something much greater that he could be contacted directly. So I think mystical theistic practice gets rather close to this kind of stuff we're doing, can do. And anyway, so he'd just never came back. He just lived in the desert. He actually had a hermitage high up in the Hogar Mountains in the middle of the Sahara Desert. Incredible place. These mountains are. I actually hitchhiked down there once, many, many years ago as a young man, and the journey, hitchhiking across the desert. Pretty much the first vehicle that came would give you a ride, down there. And so it was usually in trucks. And we all the way down to Tamanrasset, this desert town, right basically in the middle of the Sahara in southern Algeria. And it's just that's so utterly mind-blowingly beautiful. Of course, the desert is a lot of different kinds of landscape, including vast mountains. It'd be sort of just red, really red at dawn, and purple and mauve and black and so beautiful in sunset and just and then under moonlight and it's just beyond beautiful, and there's no basically not really people, basically not really vegetation, just this mineral bareness, that's just somehow just seems like such a sort of clear expression of beauty. I don't know. Anyway, Father Foucault was down there, so founded his order. This French guy, many years later, joined it. This after his time, sometime there, they said, "Okay, now you've got to go and serve. You've got to go and serve." I said, "Okay, how should I do that?" They said, "Well, there are these suffering Muslim communities in the north of England. Go and live with them." So he'd gone to this northern town, Blackburn, in the north of England, and somehow sort of served, I don't know exactly how, but the best he could, lived among the, this is back in the 70s, a lot of Pakistani Muslims had moved back to the UK from Pakistan, to the UK, and lived among them, and he'd been working in the steel mills where they were working, and it wasn't uncommon to have accidents there, and he'd lost his fingers doing that. And now he was serving in the soup kitchen, doing what he could, rolling cigarettes for homeless people who wanted them. That level of sort of one's life becoming basically an offering to the world. Whatever it had been, somehow there's some shift it can go through where you could think of it like this, really. Your life becomes an offering. So he was told to go and do that, and he just went and did it. Here's another little story, more out of the Zen story. Let me just check I can find it. Yeah, I can. This is um, this is about a guy during I think the Kamakura period of the 13th, 14th century in Japan. He was the son of a samurai, this guy, Zenkai, and he became the retainer of a high official and fell in love with the official's wife and started apparently carrying on with her. And then they were discovered and he killed the official. This is his early life, okay? And then he ran away with the official's wife. And then both of them later became thieves. They'd just go around stealing stuff. And at a certain point, Zenkai somehow had a change of heart and felt that he didn't like the way he had been living and what he'd been doing. And the woman apparently was still happy to go on thieving, and he didn't want to. So he left her, and he journeyed far away to the province of Buzen, where he became a wandering mendicant. A wandering. I don't know. It doesn't actually say he was a monk, but it sounds like he might have been. The monks would wander around at times, just mendicant, i.e., begging for food. Like Shakyamuni, we heard in the morning, all he had was a robe and a bowl. Robe to not get too cold, bowl to beg for food. And so Zenkai becomes like that. To atone for his past, he resolved to accomplish some good deed in his lifetime. Knowing of a dangerous road over a cliff that had caused the death and injury of many persons, he resolved to cut a tunnel through the mountain there. Begging food in the daytime, Zenkai worked at night digging his tunnel. When 30 years had gone by, the tunnel was 2,280 feet long, 20 feet high, and 30 feet wide. So that's a lot of digging. And again, life as offering. He's doing it for others. 2 years before the work was completed, the son of the official he had slain, who was a skillful swordsman, finally found Zenkai and came to kill him in revenge. Zenkai said, "I will give you my life willingly, but please let me finish this work first. On the day it's completed, you're free to kill me." So the son awaited the day. Several months passed, and Zenkai kept on digging. The son grew tired of doing nothing and began to help with the digging. After he had helped for more than a year, he came to admire Zenkai's strong will and character. At last the tunnel was completed, and the people could use it and travel in safety. "Now cut off my head," said Zenkai. "My work is done." "How can I cut off my own teacher's head?" asked the younger man with tears in his eyes. There it is, another story. What then? What then? I mean, we could go on. I mean, I think something in me wants to say, actually, what then is basically snafu, situational, normal, all fucked up. That's what then. Basically, what do they say? You might know this saying, relax, nothing's under control. You know? Or, I'll tell you another example. What then? Nanyo, Master Nanyo, was asked, what's the essence of Buddhism? The great Zen master, 9th century, heart of the Tang dynasty. What's the essence of Buddhism? What's the essence of Zen? What once you've awakened, what is awakening? And once you've awakened, what's it all about? And he answers this student, pass me the water jug. Pass me the water jug. And the student gets the water jug and brings it and puts it down. And Nanya says, did you understand? And the student says, no, I didn't understand anything. It says, put the water jug back. So the student picks it up and puts it back. Did you understand? I didn't understand anything. Okay. That's a koan. That's exactly it. Exactly the essence of Buddhism. Exactly Zen. Exactly awakening. I mean, one of the treasures. Every tradition has its, good things and maybe drawbacks or sort of blind spots or something. One of the things with Zen is exactly that. It's exactly that's why we have all these koans about things, because the real teaching is not at all words and dharma this and sutras and doctrine. Absolutely none of that. The real teaching is your body waking up in the morning, getting out of bed, going to make tea, brushing your teeth, getting cereal or whatever, oatmeal for the kids, or they probably don't like oatmeal. I know, Pop Tarts for the kids, whatever it is. I don't know, and making the kids lunch, and it's that going to work. It's the real teaching. Is this? I mean, we know the eye of the Buddha is mountains, rivers, great earth, cities, freeways. We know it, There it is. That's the real awakening. Is this, not ideas and stories, and they can all help. They can have a place, for sure they might, But it's you're living it every moment. Pass me the water jug. It's a fantastic That's it. That's what we're looking for. I said it on the first day, and you probably didn't believe me that, this is what we're looking for. This is journey's end. The decades of searching is this. I'm serious, but I mean, it is a joke in a sense, So, so yes, simple as that. Okay, I think that's wrapped it up. So, so we end our session in shortly, and and you enter the next thing. I mean, session is no different. We're doing slightly different things, but it's no different from driving home, getting on a plane, going home. It's no different from it. Turning off the computer. Morning session over. Okay, great, thanks. Closing the computer. That's it. The session's no different from that. From going to make lunch. Do you see? Obviously, all this is a slightly different way of behaving. It's not really very different. It's a little bit different, just to help us get a bit clearer. But it's just, I don't know how to put this exactly. It's all the same. It's the same as your life. This is your life. And so is it when you get on the plane back to wherever it is. Go to work tomorrow morning. That's the mercy of this practice. You can't fall out of it. Forget throwing stone out of the world. You can't fall out of the world. You can't fall out of awakening. Actually, the eye of the Buddha. So it's just, it's only a matter of. I mean, the only point of practice is really to see it a bit more clearly and maybe more consistently over time. It's not really. We're not actually making anything different. We're just seeing it more clearly, and seeing it more clearly, and being less caught up in this not, and what it thinks it needs and can't bear and all the rest of it. Less caught up in that. Having a wider context can indeed lead to a really different, a different sense of sort of priority, in life. What we want to. You can even say, how can I best serve, wholeheartedly, not what do I want, but how can I best offer this life? What's the best offering? And please guide me in that. You can sort of say that. How can my life be best an offering? And each of us has answers to that question. No doubt about it. And it's different for each of us. We don't all have to do the same things, And somehow being, of course, being sort of, what would you say, sort of authentically who you are and what you're called to do and what your gifts may incline you to do and so on, is going to be in the territory of what you can most authentically do by way of having your life be an offering, And then, of course, we don't want to be doing the harmful things either, whatever that offering is, may it be clear of the harmful things, best we can. Okay, so, wow. Yeah, definitely. End of talk. Thank you very much. Thank you very, very much for listening. Thank you for being here. Thank you for making this retreat happen. Everybody, thank you so much.